Previous session, we noticed that how to download vCenter server software, the management console, how to copy that ISO image to data store file, and what is vCenter server installation types, like Windows-based installation, appliance-based installation. Where we learn about Windows server and other components, then we are trying to load Windows-based installation. Before going for installation, what are the requirements? See here, if you search the internet, VMware vSphere server 6.0 software requirement, 6.7 requirement, 7.0 requirement. According to that, you will come to know what are the requirements. There are different articles. Apart from all articles, what article we need to refer? Only the VMware related, vendor related websites only for better understanding. See here, KB article, kb.vmware.com. vCenter Server 6.0 requirements for installation. Open that and see that minimum system requirements for installation VMware vCenter. This is also KB article. Minimum requirements. What is the minimum requirement to load an vCenter server? Okay, you need to search the internet and understand different components. What are the options are available? See here, there are types of available. Embedded deployment model, external deployment model. The first thing is we notice two types of installations. One is Windows-based installation. The other one is appliance-based installation. Appliance-based installation, it is a predefined configuration by VMware vendor, like OS and management console also install pre-installed component. It is comes as a package. Okay. If it comes to Windows-based installation, before going for installation, what options are available? What are the software requirements? What is there in the types of installation? See here, embedded deployment model is nothing but there are way of installation, way of architecture design, like what is vCenter server, where to install vCenter server. In previous versions, only one vCenter server, it takes care of all components in one server. Here, embedded deployment model, in the sense it is divided into two options: platform service control, PSC. Platform service control. Platform service control is nothing but a single sign-on option. Okay, and VC component, vCenter server, so that we can install embedded model, in the sense PSC. First one is PSC. Platform service controller. Okay. Under platform service control, we can install vCenter server as well. First component, what component it is going to install? Whenever we are trying to install vCenter server, it is going to install PSC component, platform service control. It is a single sign-on component. Once that is done, it is going to install PC component, vCenter server component. Both can be installed in the same system. That we call it as a embedded way of deployment. Embedded in the sense all components are going to work on the same server. Embedded deployment model. vCenter server with an embedded platform service controller. Both PSC controller, platform service controller, and vCenter server are going to install on same server, that is embedded deployment model. If it is external deployment model in the sense, what it is going to happen here, this is going to be a PSC controller. That in the sense, we are going to install PSC component, platform service component on one server. On top of it, we can install multiple vCenter servers on different environment, different servers. How we are going to deploy? Let's see. I'm going to deploy different places. And for example, I have a environment, big environment, wherein I need to maintain different locations altogether, like Hyderabad, Mumbai, different data centers available. So what we are going to do, each data center, I'm going to load one vCenter server, so that what benefits I'm going to get, and all those things we can see. Because it is a centralized management console. We notice that it is a centralized management console to simplify the administrative task. If I have a different locations, different places in my data centers, each data centers I need to load one vCenter server. So in this particular architecture, whatever the architecture we are going to the one server, we are going to install PSC platform service controller, the first component, and we are going to choose each data center one vCenter server, so that what it is going to maintain is this model. What model it is? This model we call it as external dev model. So PSC will be there on one server, VC server on a different server. This is, for example, Hyderabad. This vCenter server, we call it as a Bangalore. And data center, wherever the data center is available, we are going to deploy one vCenter server in each location, so that it is administrative task is going to be simplified. Okay, is a Bangalore. Each data center, I'm going to load different vCenter server. Then it is called, what we call it as, one is, if all components are installing on one server, that is embedded vCenter server with a platform service controller. External deployment in the sense, PSC control will be there on one server and VC server will be there on a different server. Okay, so in this architecture, the platform service controller is going to have a single sign-on and can be possible. There are certain additional features are going to be come into picture, wherein we can move the VM from one vCenter server to another vCenter server without any downtime. Certain additional features are going to come into picture. This model installation, we call it as, what installation it is? External deployment model. That external PSC service controller, vCenter server with external platform service controller. So that in the sense, it is going to load in different places one VC for each data center. It is going to be make a feature available to we can migrate a VM from one data center to another data center. So all together, this is a kind of hierarchy, whereas in main branch is going to have a PSC center, platform service controller, and subset components. Wherever the vCenter server is available, there we are going to load vCenter server for the respective data center. This is two types of model of deployment. The same deployment is going to applicable for appliance-based installation also. In appliance-based installation also, simplified configuration. Is it an embedded deployment or external deployment? So we need to choose what are the deployment. As we are working on a lab environment, it is a simpler environment. According to data center, we are going to deploy different places vCenter server. If it is single data center, in a single data center, for each vCenter server, there is a limitation how many hosts it can manage. Okay, so according to requirement, according to way of deployment, managing the number of VSX servers, I can create number of vCenter servers. That vCenter server is an independent entity. Then everything I'm going to deploy PSC and VC on a single vCenter server. It is a separate entity. There is no option, there is no link between two vCenter servers. If I need an entity wherein all different places data center vCenter servers are come together as a single entity, then we have to go with external via deployment. Generally, in any organization, if it's a small organization, 10 ESX host, 100 ESX host, 1000 ESX host, we can manage on a single vCenter server. Okay, it is not a problem. What is the simplified administrative task? It is according to your design environment, your whatever the environment you are going to maintain, according to way of administrative task. Hyderabad should be having a separate vCenter server. You can go with a separate entity. Bangalore data center, I can go with a different entity. If I want to make all together as a single entity as a India, then I'm going to load in a platform service control and main data center and separate vCenter server on each data center. Okay, this is a way of installation. Next, the components. What are the components? What are the software requirements? Installation. Windows server is required. What is the minimum requirements of a server? Okay, migration, different places, how to migrate from where to where, and all those things. Software requirements. We notice that types of installations, and then deployment model, and then what is required to load an operating system, what is required to install management console, Windows Server operating system, what is compatible Windows Server operating system. If it is 2008 R2 is compatible, what is the minimum requirement? What is the disk space requirement? What is CPU requirement? What is RAM requirement? All those things we need to verify prerequisites. Okay, so let's go with vCenter server installation. There are different articles are available. You can search internet and you can understand what is software requirement. See here, vCenter server Windows Server requirement, vCenter Server storage requirements, vCenter Server Windows software requirements. Windows software requirements is related to OS operating system. Hardware requirements is related to how much CPU, how much memory, and all those things. What is the storage requirement? How much space I need to maintain on each server, like C drive how much, D drive how much, because it is centralized management console, it is going to load certain components. For each thing, it is going to be available different. You can open this respective sites and you can understand the requirements. Okay, for each everything we can search internet how to what version we are going to load, how to load, what are the requirements, VMware vCenter Server 6.0, 6.5, 6.7, 7.0. So we'll come across the KB articles, only refer KB articles for better understanding. Okay, you can refer other articles who are maybe blogs and other things. They'll provide step-by-step installation. Even videos are available, how to install, how to configure and other things. Let's proceed with our installation. Please share the screen and we already downloaded the component. Connect to RDP. I told you we downloaded and we mounted the ISO image and we copied the files in previous session. And this session we are going to proceed with installation. How to install it? vCenter server, Windows-based installation. Now it is a small lab environment. Now I'm going to deploy both PSC and VC server component on same server. Before inside to load an operating system management console, we need to log in that server as a domain admin. Domain admin credentials are required. So you should have a privilege of administrator credentials before proceeding with installation on that vCenter server. You should have admin privileges on the respective server. Check console, is it there? What is the issue? Check the console. Not this one, that is AD server, right? vCenter server. Some updates are maybe installed, that's the reason it got rebooted. Okay, wait for some time. It just rebooted after installing updates, okay? So we are going to install the component embedded way of installation. Embedded in the sense both PSC and VC are going to deploy on same server. We need to log in as admin with admin credentials. Make sure we are going to log in as admin credentials before starting installation. What are the things are required? For management console, we should have a database requirement as well. Okay, as we are going to load all the components in same server, we are going to load a default inbuilt database also on this particular server. In enterprise environment, we are going to maintain a separate DB server. The DB administrator is going to create a database instance for this particular VC server. So that we are going to create some entries. What is that entry? We are going to see. Before installation, first component it is going to load, it is going to ask. Let's see how it is going to ask. Let's see. Okay, open that software dump. Wherever you copied, open that software dump place. Okay. Here, auto run is there. Right click on that auto run and run as administrator. Whenever you are installing components, any component, it is make a habitual to execute that particular software component, run as an administrator. See, this is a installation wizard, VMware vSphere, vCenter server installation, vCenter server for Windows. Okay, so we are going to start the installation. Let's see what are the options are going to come into picture. Okay, click installation. Wizard install is okay. What is version? Click to install VMware vCenter server 6.0 build number. Okay, click next. Accept the license agreement. See here. We discussed about embedded deployment, external deployment. Embedded deployment in the sense both platform service controller and vCenter server will be on same server. With the second option is external deployment. External deployment in the sense I can choose, if I select second option, first I need to, while installing, executing this auto run exe file, it is going to prompt this option. If I'm going to install both the components on same server, I'm going to choose the first option. If I'm going to go with external deployment, first there are bullet options are available. First component I need to install platform service control. Then according to data centers, we need to load different vCenter servers. So I'm going to choose second option vCenter server. How many vCenter servers I'm going to deploy according to my requirement. As we are going with the same server all together, that's the reason we are going to select embedded deployment. Select embedded deployment and proceed next. See here, what it is throwing an error. We didn't notice, we didn't manage the software requirement, hardware requirements. What it is throwing an error. VMware vCenter server detected only 4 GB of memory. It requires minimum 8 GB of memory to install this selected deployment type. So what I need to do, I am not in a position to proceed with installation because of my hardware requirements. That is a prerequisite is we need to check all the components. Okay. For the purpose of this, to get this error, I selected 4 GB of RAM. So what I need to do now, I need to choose 8 GB of memory for this particular server. Click OK, cancel. Where to increase the memory? How to increase the memory? We need to see how to increase the memory. We know the how to create a VM. We selected a certain amount of memory. So to increase the memory, what I need to do? Go to edit settings of the vCenter server. Edit settings. Yeah, am I able to modify memory configuration during the power on situation? Let's see, is it giving an option or not? Generally, CPU and memory modification is not going to allow during power on state. What we need to do, we need to shut down this VM to modify this VM modification memory and CPU. Let's do that. Okay, cancel and go shut down the server, initiate a shutdown. Once it is done, cancel this edit settings, cancel. You can't do that. Once it is shut down, again, you need to click on edit settings. Now it is down. What I need to do, I need to increase the memory. Memory, what should be memory? 8 GB. Make it 8 GB or 10 GB. Make it 10 GB. 8 GB is the minimum requirement. Okay. Better to make it 10 GB. Okay. Proceed. Okay. Power on. Go to edit settings and see what is the disk size is there. Then select hard disk. What is 80 GB? Okay, let it be there. We'll see what is the options are going to come into picture. If requirement, we can add on the fly. Hard disk, we can extend, we can do adding hard disk on the fly without downtime. We can do hard disk increase. We can add additional disk as well. To modify CPU and memory, it requires a downtime. Okay, click cancel and connect to RDP session and proceed with the installation. There is one more question that do I need to use virtual server or do I need to use physical server for the vCenter server deployment? You can see that easiest option, easiest rollback. If, for example, if any issue with the vCenter server, where we are loading vCenter server on one of the ESXi host, we are deploying vCenter server, it is a VM, where we are going to deploy on one of the ESXi host. What is the purpose of vCenter server? It is a centralized management console. Okay, I'll come to the topic. Let's proceed with installation and see what options are going to come. During installation, I'll come to this topic again. Yeah, yes, agreed. We are going with inbuilt. So it is going to ask some information, system name, where we are going to load. What is the system name? vCenter server. What it is going to show you? Custodian, fully qualified domain name. Okay, next. What is this? A specified name can be resolved to an IP address, but the name could not be found on DNS and DNS does not appear to be a full IP4. So ignore this warning if you not intend to use IPv6. What it is meaning, IPv6 is there, but there is no record for IPv6. There is no problem. We are going to use the same IPv4. Okay, go with proceed next. Click OK. Here, what are the password? It is we are going to set a password for single sign-on administrator.vsphere.local. It is important to use this particular password and all those things during the troubleshooting or any issues coming to picture during after installation. So make sure what are the password you are going to use, keep it a safe side. Okay, default password you mentioned for this lab environment. Okay, default first site, leave it the default setting, click next. It is a password requirements. We need to maintain this password requirements, at least one uppercase, one lowercase, one number, and other special characters. So make use of this entire scenario and mention the password. VMware, vcaps, VMware at the rate 123. Vcaps, VMware at the rate 123. So use Windows local systems account, vCenter service account, specified a service account. What it is going to do is, whenever there is an enterprise environment, whenever you are going to load a centralized management console, there are critical services, there are important services. That services should run up and running without dependence on single account. So what they are going to do is, whatever the service we are going to deploy, they are going to create a service accounts in AD for each service. Whatever the management service are going to install in environment, they are going to create a service accounts for the respective each environment, each management console. As it is a vCenter service account, it is an enterprise environment to maintain an entire data center. So this vCenter server should not bind with a certain account. So what they are going to do is they'll create a service account to perform the certain actions. So if any service account is created, we need to mention that specify user service account and the domain and the provided by password. What is the benefit of service account? Service account by default, the password never expires. The password, what are the password we create during the service account creation, it is going to fulfill certain requirements. The password should not never expire. The password is not going to change. Generally, if it is a normal user account, what will happen? As per organization compliance requirement, we need to change for 90 days or 60 days. We need to change the password. If we change the password, the service account is going to stop state. So to avoid that, they are going to create service accounts, that specific service account for each service in an enterprise environment. So as we are working on lab, we go with Windows-based system, local system account. Proceed next. See here, database. The important component is database. Whenever we are going to load centralized management console, any kind of centralized management console, it requires certain features. One of the important thing is database. If it is enterprise environment, what they are going to do, they'll maintain a separate database server for each instant, for each function, vCenter server 1 DB instant they are going to create. For other management function, they'll create one more incident, same database server. They'll make the database server is up and running 99%, 99.9% without any downtime. They'll take the backups and they'll do all the necessary actions. The DB administrator is going to perform all these actions. They are going to create certain permissions to create a table, to create a uh, update the data, log files, and all those things they'll create according to requirement. As we are going to load inbuilt operating system, inbuilt system, we are not going to separate database server. Here, there is an option, embedded database. As we know that it is supported databases are SQL databases support, Oracle databases support, different components, what are the database components are support. During this installation, as we are now working on independent system environment, the VMware vendor, it is a free database. There is no requirement of SQL. There is no requirement of Oracle. If I go with SQL and Oracle, what is I need to maintain? To load that SQL database, I need to load an operating system first. I need to purchase a license. On top of it, I need to purchase a SQL database license. For that, I need to purchase a license. That in the sense, 2 licenses I need to purchase to choose a SQL database. If I'm going with Oracle, the same scenario, I need to load an operating system on top of it Oracle database. Then they are going to maintain administrator. Here, the vPostgres is a inbuilt database. It's a proprietary database by VMware. It is a free database. There is no separate license is required to load a local database. Okay, that's the reason use embedded database in the sense it is a on this particular system it is going to load a database component that is vPostgres, that is in embedded database, comes with it by default this with package. Okay, we are going to choose this database, proceed next. It is going to create a respective permissions for this database and all those things. Proceed next. These are the components for vCenter server communications. For what are the ports are required. These are other than by default ports like what we know SMT port and some ports default ports. Similar way for this vCenter server communication, some ports are required. If it is under firewall requirements, the vCenter server is sending communication from the different location to establish communication to this vCenter server. These are the ports should be open at firewall. If any of the port is not functioning, you are not in a position to perform the required administrative task on this vCenter server. If it is a single network within the network, no need to open. By default, all ports will be open. If you are connecting remotely to this vCenter server, we need to make sure that IP address, vCenter server IP address should be in a ping reachable, should be able to establish communication. And also we need to make sure all these ports are open at firewall to establish communication. Okay, these are the ports, default ports. Okay, next. These are the default path. It is going to load the components, the software installation component, whatever the options we have selected. According to the options, it is going to load. Click next. Remove that checkbox. We are not going to load customer program. What is this option is nothing but it is going to provide a program like whatever the errors, whatever the issues are going to come into picture, it is going to send the data to the VMware website, VMware program, VMware vendor site, so that they are going to analyze the issue. If any issue comes in picture, they are going to analyze the data as per your selection here. If you select the checkbox from this particular server through internet, what are the issues or some information, no, not other information, only VMware related information only it will send to the VMware vendor to analyze any issues or any troubleshooting options. Click next. We are going to unselect. So these are the components. We selected all the components. What are the components we selected? Okay. What is the password we set? What is the database we selected? Everything. It is going to install the component. Click install. So it is going to load installation with the default components. Coming back to this, we left one topic. We need to choose a virtual center server as a virtual machine or a physical server. Where we need to install vCenter server. Why we are choosing vCenter server installation? vCenter server installation is nothing but a centralized management console to manage entire ESXi host and associated VMs, right? What happens if it is vCenter server down, that ESXi host down? My vCenter server centralized management console is a VM, where we deploying a VM on one of the ESXi host. That ESXi host is also part of under we are going to manage under vCenter server. But I'm using a VM. On top of it, I'm loading vCenter server to manage all ESXi hosts. Not only this ESXi host, in my environment, what are the ESXi hosts are available, I'm going to manage. So here the question is, do I need to go with a VM is the best option or a physical hardware to load this vCenter server? Physical machine is required or a virtual machine is the best option? What is the recommended approach? See, for example, if a vCenter server, I'm going to deploy on a physical server, any server, physical server. What will happen if the particular server having a hardware issue? I need to, if the hard disk problem or the motherboard problem or something other problems, what will happen? It is increase the downtime for my vCenter server management application. Until that part is going to replace, I am not in a position to power on the vCenter server, due to which I am not in a position to use this centralized management console. If I am going to use on a VM, so where this VM is going to store the files, VM is going to store the files on a centralized storage. Okay, the files with the VM. What is a VM? VM is nothing but a software component, software files, the coding files. Where it is storing, we are selecting a data store. Under data store, we are creating a files. For example, if this particular ESXi host is down for some reason, what I can do, the same virtual machine I can power on another ESXi host. If this particular VM virtual machine files, virtual machine folder is available in a centralized location, there is no dependency. I can power on this particular VM on another ESXi host, and I can move this VM to another place to power on. There is no dependency on hardware. So I am going to reduce the downtime. Not only downtime, not only this, there is additional features are available. I'll show you what are the additional features if it is a VM deployment. We can secure, restore if any issue, if while installing anything, it can happen anything. To avoid uncertainty of installation, we are not sure it's going to successful or not. I can quickly restore to previous state. If it is in a physical server, there is no option to quickly restore to previous state. That's the way it is. The virtualization layer is going to provide some additional features. That's the reason deploying a vCenter server is recommended to deploy on a VM, not a physical server. Okay, that's the concept. Where to deploy vCenter server? Do I need to deploy on a virtual machine or do I need to deploy on a physical server? The option is virtual environment. We need to deploy on a better recommended approach is deploying VM on vCenter server. It will take a certain time. Any doubts or any questions? Nothing to do with this installation. We'll learn other topic. Okay. The snapshot option. Snapshot. What is a snapshot? If we go to let it continue this installation, we are going to talk about snapshot. What is a snapshot? What is the use of the snapshot? Where to go? How to use the snapshot? What is the understanding of snapshot? Okay, go to ESXi host. If you right click on a VM, there is an option called what are the options are available. Once you right click on the respective VM, there is an options power guest snapshot. Till now we noticed we executed power tab and guest tab to install VMware tools, and open console we know how edit setting option to modify the hardware components and all those things. Permissions, report performance, we'll see the later. Now we are going to understand what is a snapshot. Snapshot is nothing but whatever the action we are going to do. Take a snapshot in the sense, for example, we are installing vCenter server on this particular VM. Before installing any component, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a snapshot. How to create a snapshot? If I click on right, take snapshot, click on take snapshot. Just give the name patch installation. For example, I'm deploying Windows updates on my server. On this particular VM, I'm going to deploy Windows updates. Before installing Windows updates, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a snapshot. What snapshot is going to do, whatever the disk, where the patches are going to load on my disk, VMDK disk, the storage disk, I'm going to do some modification on my software component, on my operating system or software component or application. Before doing that, I'm going to create a snapshot. What snapshot is going to do, whatever the disk is there, what is the disk means? VMDK file. Whatever the disk is there, the disk, it is going to make it as a read-only mode. It is going to, what its current state is before creating snapshot, the disk is going to perform read and write. As soon as you create a snapshot, what it is going to make is, whatever the disk is there, that disk, it is going to make it as a read-only option. It can only read the data. As soon as you create a snapshot, what it is going to create? It is going to create a child disk, child file. Okay, the session is going to end in 5 minutes, no issues. It is going to create a child object, child disk. Whatever the VMDK disk is there, it is going to make it as a read-only mode. And then whatever the modification, for example, you are modifying some data, you are installing some component, software modification. Whatever the modifications are going to happen on this particular storage, it is going to create a new file that we call it as snapshot files. What is a better understanding is, what it is going to benefit is, if any issue is there, for example, after installing the patch, server is not coming online, server is not functioning properly. So what will happen is there, what are the modifications you are going to load, it is going to write the data in child disk. The parent disk is acting as a read-only mode. Whatever the modification you are going to do, that modifications are going to create a new file, new VMDK file. That the VMDK file is nothing but we call it as a snapshot file. Child file it is going to create. What are the modifications are going to happen? That writing data is going to happen on the snapshot files that we call it as read log files. So if any something goes wrong, we can quickly restore. Okay, for example, we are installing vCenter server. Okay, we can quickly restore. If the installation is failed, we can quickly restore to previous state. Okay, we'll understand snapshot again. Then we'll see what is the installation status. Open that RDP. It will continue the installation. It will take some time. Nothing to do anything here. We selected all the components. What are the required? We choose the installation types and everything. So it will complete the installation. Once installation is completed, it will go for reboot. Once that installation is completed, how to access vCenter server, how to connect, and all those things we'll see in next session. Okay. So snapshot, again, we are going to discuss tomorrow, next session again, snapshot, what is snapshot and all those things. This installation will take some time. Okay. We'll leave this session and we'll connect in next session once the installation is done. Yeah. Bye.